Hey everyone, it's Karen. So I thought of an idea for a tag last night, and it's a very simple tag, which are my favorite kind, which basically is I just want you to tell me about some of the literary places you have traveled to. And so I have mine written on a piece of cardboard because why not? Sorry, my cat is knocking my camera, but I wanted to show you guys some of the places that I have been that show up in books, and some of these are kind of benign and just typical, and some of them are really cool. So I am curious where you guys have been. But the first book that I'll talk about is The Night Bookmobile by Audrey Niffenegger. Her name is so intense. This book takes place in the Ravenswood neighborhood of Chicago. And there was a time when I lived in Chicago when I rear-ended someone because they stopped suddenly. And I had to take several trains to school, and I would often get off on my way home at Ravenswood. And so it's just kind of cool to look at these pictures. This is an adult picture book that's very, very, very similar to, what is it called? The Midnight Library. So similar. This one came first. And so obviously this is actually closer to where I lived. I lived really close to Wrigleyville, but the bus kind of starts in Ravenswood. And so, you know, this is kind of like a more simple version of a literary adventure, I guess, because it takes place in a place where you have lived and where you know. And similar to this one, Her Perfect Symmetry, which is a really weird book. But this one, there's like a bunch of points where I recognize where Audrey is talking about. And one of them is like this like parking lot kind of area, kind of like the back area by a dumpster. Definitely recognize that. It was in Highland Park where I used to work. So this is one kind of option to talk about, is just like books that help you see like places you're familiar with in your hometown or your area. And I think that's kind of similar to the Your Neck of the Woods tag, which I still need to do. But going a bit further, I guess, there's obviously loads of books that take place in places you've traveled to. Like many of us have been to DC, for example. Many books take place in DC. This is a book that takes place in Boston, and I was lucky enough to be able to go to Boston, which is one of my favorite cities, just because I felt like I would walk everywhere. Like I did take the tea places, and I felt completely comfortable and like no big deal taking it, but I also walked loads and loads and loads. Anyway, I am very proud of my like 90s stickers that are apparently on this book, but Make Way for Ducklings takes place in Boston, and so yeah, I've been to this park in Boston. Okay, now getting into some cooler things. So there's a lot actually around my trip to Boston because I went on a literary tour, and there's just like other things that I found. So Louisa May Alcott, like I walked on the tour near where she lived, which was part of the thing that I love about what I loved about that tour. But I just kind of have this theme in my life where I just love this in general, this idea of like the past among the present. And I felt like it was really cool to go by her home, which is obviously like historic, and I feel like you would have this even more in like other countries that are that were yeah, anyway, that have buildings that were built sooner than Americans built buildings. But anyway, basically like there's this old home that Louisa May Alcott used to live in, and then like the newspaper is getting delivered there. I mean, it's just like, I think, I can't remember her as her home or someone else's that we visited. Someone walked out to like go get groceries or like, what? Okay. But let's move on to some cooler things. So I will be inserting pictures along the way of some of the places that I've been. I've already done that apparently in the editing. But Charles Dickens was apparently really into going to Boston. And he practiced actually a Christmas Carol in Boston in front of this mirror that I stood in front of. So you'll be able to see a picture of that. And it was actually his first performance of a Christmas Carol in Boston. So I had no idea before I went there that he performed his own pieces. I had no idea that he had any connection to Boston. So basically, the Parker House Hotel is where this mirror is currently located, and the restaurant is amazing. You should definitely go there. However, you can like kind of explore the hotel and see other literary things because there was this whole like literary society that used to meet there. So you can go and see the mirror that Charles Dickens used to speak in front of and practice in front of, I guess, before he would perform. And there's also a room in the hotel, I can't remember the room number, but there will be pictures, where apparently it's haunted or something. And Stephen King wrote a short story about it called 1408. And so basically we're having dinner at the Parker House when I traveled to Boston to serve as a delegate at the NEARA. And one of my friends and I kind of left dinner because it's kind of like a slow-paced, chill dinner. And we went upstairs to where we knew this room was. And there was these other two like Asian guys that were a bit younger than us probably that were in the elevator with us. And we just left and like starting to get kind of scared now that we get closer to the room. And these Asian guys totally like knew what we were doing. And so I was in front of the guy that I was with and I was walking, but I was like terrified. And I could feel like the presence of someone right behind me. And I turned around and one of the like random guys on the elevator was like right behind me and he goes, ah! And I was like, ah! And they just like cracked up so much. It was hilarious. But anyway, we saw the room from the outside. We took pictures and we went back down to dinner. So that was that. Some other cool homes that I've been to or different places. And this is actually what gave me the idea of this was the house with the clock in its walls. So John Bellairs grew up in Marshall, Michigan, which is this very small town. It has a really cool historic home tour and there's like one restaurant I like, but besides that, it's nothing to write home about. But on the historic home tour, this home that John Bellairs based this book off of, this is many of his books in this collection, but The House with the Clock in Its Walls was based on this home in Marshall, Michigan. And so I was able to go inside of it and take loads of pictures, but it was on like, it was back in the day. So they're either on like a digital camera or like a very old phone. I would imagine probably like I took them on an actual digital camera. But yeah, that house was super creepy, like just in real life, let alone like I totally get, I guess, why he would think of this creepy story based on that house. And then actually really close to Marshall, Michigan, the children's book author, Patricia Polacco, has a home there. She lives part-time in California, part-time in Michigan. And so basically any book by her, like I have seen lots of stuff because she uses basically like memories from her childhood and all this stuff and makes these stories of it. So like, for example, this one is The Keeping Quilt, which I adore because she actually changed the ending to expand the story and it makes it more like LGBTQ plus inclusive and it's more real life because this is actually like her family. And yeah, so I was able to see The Keeping Quilt, all sorts of other things that she has in her stories. I was able to see there's like creepy dolls and there's like eggs and there's, what is it called? Some sort of like a little, I think she calls it a blessing cup. I saw that as well. So I will include some pictures, but I will leave the link below to my album on Facebook because it has loads more. And then the cool thing about Patricia Polacco is she doesn't just have a home, she has a bunch of homes. So in Michigan. That's only what I'm talking about. She has the home that she lives in, okay? So I was able to actually go there and tour her home. Like, I went in her home. Like, I went in her bathroom. I saw what kind of soap she uses. I mean, like, I don't think there was anything that was off limits. Yeah, so anyway, I went in her home. And then also she has a home like right on her property that's an entire house and has cable TV and has furniture, and that's her cat home. So she like, I think she has her own cats, but she also like rescues cats, and it's just like this entire house just with cats. That's it. She has like some farm animals as well, and then a few blocks away she has her studio, and that's where she writes and illustrates. Well, no, just kidding. She only illustrates there. She writes in her home, and I was able to see the space that she writes, which was a hot, crazy mess. Actually, speaking of hot, crazy messes, she is a woman who decorates in a much more busy way than I prefer to decorate, and there was like this whole like bookshelf or something that was just full of dolls, and it was so creepy. So I might include a picture of that. But yeah, I was able to tour her studio as well. But also on her property right by her house, there is this other house. And if you've ever heard of the Graves family, which is like a couple Halloween books that she wrote, that is the house that the Graves family books are based on. And once a year, on Halloween, she opens up this home. So this home is only used one day a year, basically. She decorates it like crazy and gives away not just king-size candy bars to kids that come trick-or-treating, but pound-size candy bars. Anyway, she's just like the most amazing, generous woman. She's like such a beautiful soul, and it was amazing to like be in her personal space and see, you know, just how she lives. I was very shocked that she was so generous to let people do that. So those are some of the cool literary places that I have been to. I hope I did not forget any major ones. I would have to think, but I would love for you guys to do this video. I really want to hear some of the obscure literary places you've been to, or anything else you've seen that is really cool and somehow has a connection to literature. So if you would like to do this, consider yourself tagged, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.